Jarrett did a segment where he came out like he was Eddie Murphy and Nutty Professor with all the fat padding to imitate Dusty Rhodes. The idea was good, but the segment was terrible and seemed like it would never end. The crowd didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Jarrett did a bunch of ridiculous Dusty spots on some job guys to take bumps for him the way the Horsemen used to in the 80s. That should have been funny, but for some reason, it wasn't. Jarrett just isn't funny, even with good material. Wow, thanks a lot for that, Dave. I think you're funny. Did you have fun with this? I mean, is this something where you're gonna go talk to Dusty ahead of time, I'm sure, and say, what do you recommend? What should I do with this? I mean, you want his co-opt on this, right?
He gave it its blessing. He was fun, looking forward to it. Conrad, and you know me, I would never just flat out say no, 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 no. But I went to, like, I remember all of this. I knew it had the biggest chance to just completely flop because I don't do a good Dusty. I don't do impersonations, period. And everybody has their version of a Dusty. Bruce, I mean, literally all kinds of folks. You would just hear, I mean, day one when I got into the business, there's always been Dusty impersonations. And I went to Ed Farrar and I said, Ed, all right, Conrad, to really drill into the baseball, do you remember when me, you, and Mr. Silva, and I told him to meet me at a place at the Von Braun Civic Center?
The elephant door?
Guess where me and Ed Farrar stood? Right outside the elephant door on TV taping day. And I said, Ed, I don't do a good Dusty. Let's figure out how we can arrive at this without me having to do this. Or can I just talk in my normal voice? And he's like, no, 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 no. He said, come here. I'll coach you up. So he told me how to enunciate certain words and this and that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's like, here's the promo. And Dave saying that it went long. Because Ed cut out, I can't say a half of it, but he definitely cut the promo down. So he's like, okay, we'll just kind of cut this and out, cut that out. And you just do this part of it and go from there. So Meltzer he's never liked me. He's going to be highly critical of everything I do. But I finally remember the execution of it, but the reaction, the people, they got with it. Do I do a great Dusty impersonation? No. But the point was across, and it was the build and everything that went with it. But I had a blast doing it. And if Dusty Rhodes gave it its blessing, I'm all right with it because he was totally fine with it and enjoyed it.
You would give one of the guys the shattered dreams. So Dustin comes out for the save. Rick Steiner attacks him. That allows you to clock him with a guitar. You're going to make fun of his dad, steal his move, and then you're in trouble. If you will. The
look at that crowd in the Von Braun.
Yeah, how about that? Decent little crowd.
If you're watching on My World YouTube.
You would also go ahead and wrestle Crowbar. Rhodes does a run in there. Palumbo is going to pin Luger clean with an inside cradle. They're trying to make Palumbo and O'Hare baby faces. The main event of Thunder with Scott Steiner beating Hugh Morris. The next week on Nitro, we've got a main event with you over Rhodes with Flair as the referee. And Flair, of course, is playing the total heel ref. But you and Dustin with Rick as the ref. Man, this is, I mean, just think about the history of just the names in there. The crowd was dead. The match was boring, according to Dave Meltzer. Flair did all the goofy spots and bumps, but didn't DQ Rhodes anyway. Rhodes kept on beating on Flair and Jarrett, but looked terrible in doing so. At one point, it seems like Flair was a statue waiting forever to Rhodes to nail him so he could bump. The finish would see Flair hit a low blow to set up the stroke in 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Boy, I guess I knew that Dave didn't like Dustin and he didn't like you. But boy, when y'all wrestle together and he writes 2/3 of the write-up is about the referee.
Okay. This is another thing that jarred my brain. I remember having this discussion. Hey guys, do we really want to have this match when the biggest star is the referee? Can we have Rick come down on the end of it? Because that's the people will get engaged. If they see him out there the whole match, bad creative, bad creative. It puts everybody in a checkmate spot, including Rick, because if Rick stands there and doesn't do Rick, the people are like, what are we even doing here? None of y'all are entertaining us. So bad creative. I understood the direction they were trying to get, but we could have got the exact same thing accomplished with a ref bump and then Rick come down and do whatever it's going to, you know, however it may be. Let him be there for 3 minutes as opposed to the whole deal.
You're back in the fat suit come Monday. Flair's going to come out with padding to look like he's 400 pounds and a mask. It's obvious it was Flair because he couldn't help but do a Buddy Rogers strut. Jarrett's going to pin him right away. Dustin comes out. They fight until Flair is unmasked. Flair, who turned 52 last week, looked really bad taking one bump when nothing even remotely even aimed at him to miss, let alone hit him. Flair and Jarrett did a few chair shots to the back when the real Dusty showed up. And the Rhodes cleaned house, and this time it was Jarrett who took a bump from an elbow that missed by about 18 inches, made worse by the fact that it was then shown in the replay. Rhodes, after all these years, got to call the padded up Flair Fat Boy, which is what Flair used to taunt him as in the 80s. Flair dressing up like Dusty is not something I ever imagined. I'm sure you had to be thinking to yourself, what a hell of a way to make a living. I'm out here with Dusty Rhodes, and Ric Flair is cosplaying as Dusty Rhodes, and I'm getting bionic elbowed. And they're going to pay me for this. This is crazy stuff.
Conrad, when I see that picture, I go right back to the flashback. That makeup job was not cheap.
No.
I mean, so that's flying in a whole special effects team to do this, and I get it. I mean, we're trying to entertain the folks, but yeah, it was surreal, and we were all having a blast. When you take out kind of the snippets and the work day, and not get bogged down in the ins and outs, and where's this creative going, and who's winning and who's losing, and who's doing this and all that, and you just soaked it all in, which me and Dustin did. Look at the guys. We wouldn't call them old guys, but maybe we did. But look at the guys. They're having a blast. And, you know, the folks, the OGs, the Tony Schiavone's of the world, and maybe other backstage folks who had seen Rick and Dusty epic battles in the mid 80s and all that, to see this in 2001 was a lot of fun for a lot of folks.
Yeah, listen, it is fun. I mean, it feels like something that you shouldn't be seeing, but you are. And it's pretty cool. Now, one thing I wanted to know from a performer standpoint, I mean, because even like the next week on Nitro, you're working with Rhodes again. I mean, you and Dustin are working an awful lot. Is that frustrating, or at this point, is it more of what you were talking about earlier? Hey, man, I'm here to clock in, clock out, and hope for the best.
Well, as far as working with the same opponent week in, week out, again, my upbringing was you can work with the same guy week after week after week. What's the new story you're telling? I think that's the essence, in my opinion, of how to work. Like fresh up matches every week. I think there's only so deep you could get from an emotional engagement. But the great feuds, if you will, through the years, Dusty, Rick, Lawler, Dundee, Lawler, and a number of folks, any territory you went, but also, I mean, Hogan, Savage. When you build upon layer upon layer upon layer of talents, relationships, then coming up with new twists and turns to a match is easy. And, you know, me and Dustin, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I didn't look at it at all matter of fact, I enjoyed it because we were telling the story. In essence, me and Dustin doing the work and Rick and Dusty doing the entertaining.